The crowds have been amazing in Zurich. So yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in Zurich. So thank you.
You're going to go to Berlin or something and tell them how good.
Oh well, yeah, and I'm going to go to all the other countries and tell them how rubbish they are compared to you guys.
So this film, I'm not going to do a huge spoiler, but it's got a farting corpse in it, which everybody knows, and that's played by you.
Yes.
But it's much more than that. This is kind of a beautiful film, and I would just love to hear why, for you, it was much more than just a corpse. It's a beautiful story. Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, this is a story, if there's anything that I suppose I would like you to take away from the film, other than having a very good time, you know, the message of the film, if there is one, is that shame is what keeps us from love. And the more we can embrace our own weirdness, either in our bodies or our minds, the more connected and accepting and happy we will all be of each other. So yeah, that's the basic sort of premise. And the directors, one of the directors, both also called Daniel, one of the directors, Dan Kwan, referred to this film as being an olive branch from weirdos to closet weirdos. So any closet weirdos out there, I think, you know, you're welcome.
And what was it like working with two other Daniels? Not just sharing a name, but how did you work with them to explore this character?
It was fascinating, actually, because I've never worked with two directors before, and I didn't know how that would work. I sort of thought maybe if you have two directors, you don't have one, because if different information is being given to different parts of the set, then that's not helpful. But these guys they are one brain and one mind, and I remember saying to them like near the end of the film, I was like, you never disagree on anything, like it's amazing. And they said it's because we spend like 18 months disagreeing before we start. And something interesting happened as well, which is that Dan Scheinert is sort of built kind of like Paul Dano, and Dan Kwan is built kind of like me. And they both, whenever they would rehearse stuff, Dan Kwan would always play Manny and Scheinert would always play Hank. But then it even sort of extended to the point where they would sort of direct us, like Dan Kwan mainly directed me towards sort of, at a certain, I mean, it was 50-50 most of the time, but if there was a slant, it was to Dan Kwan would sort of handle me and Dan Scheinert would sort of handle Paul.
And what was it like working with Paul? You hadn't worked with him before?
I'd never worked with him before, but I've had lots of friends who've worked with him, and I sort of met him in passing. And I worked with his girlfriend as well, so I sort of had met him through that. And he's amazing. I mean, you're gonna see how amazing he is. But I mean, you know, he without his performance in this film, it's too crazy. Like he grounds everything and in such a beautiful. You know, there's an intensity to it, but it's also you know, this film is about joy, and I think he gives a really, as much as it's sort of an anguished performance at times, he gives something I think is a performance of incredible joy as well.
Did you guys rehearse a lot together, or did you talk to him on the phone before you started shooting and stuff to get to know him, or did you sort of come in on day one and play dead?
Sort of. I mean, we got together once before we started, and it was actually kind of useless for me because I'd just seen him in Love and Mercy the day before, so I was just like, you're amazing. I can't even talk to you, you're so good, I can't believe I'm doing a film with you. Like, I was too sort of starstruck to actually like do anything productive. But then when we got together on set, we had a few days rehearsal, and then we would sort of get together at the beginning of every scene and just have a moment of, for both of us sort of to work out what we need out of the scene. You know, for example, there's a scene in a cave where I start the scene looking at Paul, and then at a certain point I have to end up looking at a magazine that's on the floor. And so I'm dead, so I can't move. So we sort of we would like find ways of, you know, engineering a fall, or what's a good moment to, you know, for him to turn my head so I can look at something else. Or so we'd sort of get together and do a little bit of choreography on the scenes.
And, you know, jokes aside, you're playing a corpse, but that must be really hard. It's a different kind of preparation. It's a very physical. How did you get into your head about how to do this?
Well, I was I was quite freaked out about it before we started, because I was just like, how do I do that? And then a friend of mine said something incredibly helpful to me, which he just said, you know, this isn't real. Like this isn't a thing that exists. You can do anything. You can't be wrong. I was like, okay, fine. So, and he said, like, as long as you're consistent and committed, then it shouldn't matter. And that gave me sort of, that felt like a lot more freedom. And I think the physical side of things, I'm just quite willing to throw myself around. I don't think there was any like special preparation other than like knowing that I'm gonna fall over a lot.
But it must have hurt, some of the stuff we see.
Yes and no. Like I never feel any of it at the time. Like I get home at night and I'm like, oh, why my knee hurt? Oh yeah, so I fell onto a rock 7 times. But generally speaking, no. It was the only other thing that was I was sort of worried about was like, how do I, when Manny starts talking and moving more, like how do I still communicate the fact that he is dead without making him seem like a zombie? I don't know. There was the key moment for me in that was when I actually saw myself in the makeup, and I can do like a weird thing with my eye, which I do in the movie. I won't do it now because you won't be able to see, and you'll see it soon.
I can see it right here. Oh, that is weird.
So I can do that, and that combined with the makeup. When I first saw myself in the mirror, I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about playing dead. I look really dead. So as of that moment, I was kind of like, okay, I can play the character rather than playing dead all the time.
And were you surprised, when this film premiered at Sundance, it was quite controversial. I mean, were you surprised at some of the reactions?
I mean, when you make a film like this, you sort of get into a bit of a bubble. And like I've seen it and I know the story, so like it makes total sense to me. You know, all of this follows quite naturally. You know, my character's penis works as a compass. Yeah, of course it does. There's stuff like that you think, you sort of get, you're in a bit of a bubble and you forget that, oh no, other people are going to find that really weird. But I think what happened at Sundance was interesting because it was a combination of, there had been an article the day before in Vanity Fair saying 16 films to look out for at the Oscars next year, and we were one of them. And I saw that and I went, oh no, you don't know what we did. Like, it's not that kind of film. And so I feel like it was a combination of people getting something other than what they expected, and it's a film festival, and we went up half an hour late, and people are there to buy films, and I think, if within the first 10 minutes of Swiss Army Man, you probably know if your boss is going to want to buy it or not. But yeah, it was slightly overblown, but it got people talking about the film. So
I think it was like the hit of the talking point of Sundance.
It kind of was, because I feel like the first night we premiered it, it was like people were freaked out. The next night was a midnight showing, and it was the most amazing crowd of people who had clearly gone, oh no, I want a bit of that. That thing that everyone else is freaked out by, I want to see that.
And partly to save your reputation, I was just going to ask you, there are some sounds in the film, there's some flatulence.
Yes.
I don't know if you say it, that's the Swiss German word, I don't know. It's not you,
It's not me.
So how did they do that?
The
magic of post-production. Yeah.
Like that. No, I mean, on set, it was just a guy doing that. That was as high tech as we got. But yeah, it was all done in post-production. One of them is Paul's. One of them is our editor, Matt's. And the rest, I think, were done in a very long Foley session. Our director said to us all on the first day of shooting, they stood up and said, "Okay, guys, there's quite a few farts in this movie. So, anyone who wants to donate one to the film can just walk over to our sound recordist and say, give him some warning, don't just do it, and then he will record you." And I think only 2 people took him up on it, because we don't want to do that to the poor guy.
No method acting for you then?
Not for me. I could not supply my own. If Daniel Day-Lewis had been doing this, it would have been very different.
On demand, I would think.
On demand, I think, it's hard. I can kind of burp on demand, but that's not a feature here. And I'm not going to do it. You look at me then like, please don't.
You did the eye thing, so I didn't. I think it's probably time we let everybody see the farting corpse itself.
Let's do it,
but
yeah.
Anything else?
No, other than just thank you so much for coming, and I hope you love it and have as good a time watching it as we had making it, because we had a really good time making it, as I think you'll be able to tell. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.